Traditionally, you always look at the office as kind of just overhead. It's a cost you have to bear, and you try to minimize it.
The physical environment has been underrated in terms of its impact on not just work, but on health and motivation and creativity.
Historically, there's been tremendous focus on workplaces that are cheaper. What there hasn't been focus on is workplaces that really facilitate the way that people work. Organizations aren't stovepiped anymore. There's a lot of attempt to work across boundaries, across disciplines. The whole social nature of work, the connections to other people are radically changing.
We're much less hierarchical, we're much more team-based, we have flatter organizations.
Now, the question is, how can the physical space change to match the organization?
We'd like to see our customers, the other agencies of the federal government, use the workplace as a strategic tool, as linked to their business strategies, their strategies for providing citizen services.
We are the agency that's charged with helping other agencies to achieve their missions of service to the American people by providing them with all of the things that they need for successful operation of their offices.
The Government Performance Results Act requires all of the agencies to really look at what we're producing for the citizens of this country and measure those in a very quantifiable way.
In the last 20 years, corporate America has become primarily information technology driven. There's now a war for talent going on in our society in this information age for the most talented, most highly motivated workers. So the real estate industry has a challenge to deliver a workplace that facilitates that evolution.
691. The federal government is not competitive in a lot of ways. We don't offer big salaries, and if you're talking with prospective employees and you show them a workplace that is far below standard, then the deck is even further stacked poorly on your behalf.
With the government losing so many people in the next few years and having to replace them in a tight labor market, the workplace is one tool you can use to help attract and retain people.
It's become apparent to me that the better the workplace, the better the chances for the success of the organization.
If you just look at the federal payrolls, billions of dollars a year, and if you can increase productivity even 1 or 2%, there's great potential there for cost benefits.
Any sort of people movement, whether it's moving around to different workstations, whether it's an actual reconfiguration, we define all of that as churn. I think that there's almost no government agency that truly tracks the cost of all of its churn because it comes out of so many different pots of money.
It's been shown you can reduce churn costs by up to 90%. Say you're spending $3,000 or $4,000 to move someone every time. If you get that down to $200, multiply that by the hundreds of thousands of people who are moved around in the government every year, you can see that there's vast potential.
In the past, we've looked at the number of square feet and the building. Now we're beginning to realize it's centered around the people, what their needs are, and how it can respond and actually become a strategic tool.
Workplace 2020 is a fundamentally new way of thinking about the workplace environment.
Yes, sir.
It's an approach that supports the people using the space and their strategic business objectives, rather than the other way around.
I like the idea.
It is a process for discovering from a customer what goes on in their business and matching that with workplaces that will maximize the ability to use them.
Now we went from, what, 4 cases?
It's the combination of people and process and place together. You start looking at the behavioral sciences for the people, business for the work process, and then architecture and design for the place, and saying how do these things work together, finding the optimal balance, putting the resources in the right places, and then seeing the business thrive. There is nobody who knows all of the answers, and so we've created strategic alliances with firms that understand pieces of this.
But we want to pull out the bigger lessons learned, and what is it that...
We're going to be presenting a total solution, which is the sum of all the best ideas, and we're getting the firms to share those ideas with each other.
Each is informing the other piece. real time.
We'll have to address the challenges which may be...
More and more these days, GSA and other federal agencies are really in a position to take the lead. They're really far ahead of the corporate world.
The different stages.
I think a lot of this is because of the research the federal government is so heavily involved in.
We have an association with the University of California at Berkeley, the Center for the Built Environment, at the Carnegie Mellon University, the Advanced Building Systems Integrated Consortium. These two organizations are very focused on the physical environment of the space. How do buildings perform? How can we really measure them? We're doing that with Georgia Tech. We're working with the University of Michigan and others in looking at the way the physical artifacts can cause people to collaborate or prevent them from collaboration. We're working with Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories on indoor air quality and the relationship between doing that and saving energy at the same time. We're looking at every aspect of that intersection of people, process, and place.
When we're designing a workplace, we have certain assumptions about behavior, we have assumptions about people, about what works and what doesn't. And often those aren't right. You know, they're not based on any kind of solid research, any kind of science.
To what extent is individual productivity and distraction-free work environments key to our future, and to what extent are collaborative work environments? And is it a balance, or is it shifting away from individual work to collective work?
Measuring productivity in a knowledge worker environment is different than measuring people on an assembly line. It's different than measuring something like a call center. How do you measure creativity?
The Workplace 2020 pilot program is designed at distilling down for the use of GSA associates with contract support a new and more effective way to engage with their customers and provide them with better spaces, world-class spaces for them to perform their missions.
Workplace 2020 holds tremendous potential to change the way GSA serves its customers.
Remember, one of our
It's a bundle of thinking that changes how GSA thinks about what it has to offer in ways of value-added propositions.
So I think that
With the Workplace 2020 effort, there's a block on the project chart that says determine customer requirements. That's the essence of the whole thing.
We're using a balanced scorecard approach where we look at the advantages in terms of financial performance measures. What are the advantages from a strategic standpoint? What is the advantage to the human capital assets of the organization?
Anybody can make a lease. Anybody can give you humdrum space that doesn't work for you. Because we're in the government, because we're sitting with the customers over a long term, we think Workplace 2020 is a way to truly add value to the equation. One of the things that's unique is we've created a series of learning laboratories around the country.
To be believable to our customers, we needed to be on the cutting edge and have the notion of where the cutting edge was. To create the Adaptable Workplace Lab was an extraordinary event for GSA in that we'd never really done anything like that before.
The envelope, which is that infrastructure, permits total flexibility. In the north neighborhood, clusters of workstations surround several sort of teaming rooms. In the middle neighborhood, a community space is the open kitchen and kind of lunchroom area. The south neighborhood is cubicle space with movable componentry surrounding an open teaming space.
The before was very much stovepipe organization, stovepipe activities. The regional administrator had his suite at the front of the building. I had my suite at the back of the building. We blew that all apart. By putting everybody in this leadership cluster, I can get up from my area right here, look down the aisle, see whether the regional administrator is in or not. If he's there, I can walk down and talk to him for 10 minutes. It's a real opportunity for people to interact on a real-time basis.
We built out a reception area that would give a different feeling than the typical government space. We have what we call the Village Green, where small meetings can take place. We also have what we call the Connection, which is another area that folks can sit and have coffee and have their meetings. We have 3 dens, which are small private rooms that anyone can go to and have a private conversation or conference calls.
We spent weeks talking about what it was we were trying to accomplish. And one day the designer said, "Oh, I get it. You're trying to build a place that revolves around the people. You're not trying to put the people into a place and make it work." And we said, "Yeah, that's it. We're trying to build a place around the function of the people." We try to create a different sense of community. Pull people out of the little gray cubby and into a bigger sense of the accountability for what the group is producing. We also wanted to get rid of lots and lots of miles of file cabinets. We wanted to provide lots of meeting spaces. So many of the goals we set up for ourselves, we were able to do by integrating the people with the tools.
The biggest lesson learned is that we've got to have rigorous research and very rigorous costs that we can prove this to the Chief Financial Officer. A lot of people understand these concepts from an intuitive standpoint, but they really need to see the numbers behind it.
I think we have a real jewel. We are not paying any more rent here than anywhere else. The build-out was done with the same amount of money a gut and rehab job would have been done. The furniture is modest. So you can do whatever you need to do as long as you have some help figuring out what that is.
For a long time, people treated workspace as a cost. Drive that down. You can only go so far with this squeezing concept, and it makes a lot more sense that the workplace help the company succeed.
Workplace 2020 allows us to talk to our customer agencies, learn what they do as a business, to create environments in which they can be at their best.
GSA has transformed itself to what I would call a customer-focused organization, trying to work collaboratively to develop a facilities strategy that supports their agency mission.
Now we are concentrating more on the people, how they work, what their needs are, and translating that into workplace solutions.
We're looking at how technology can be used to track ideas over time and what that does to what we're designing in the workplace.
Say 5 years out in the future or so, we'd be able to say, we know how to get close to your business and we know how to give you a solution that is going to make you more effective. And that transcends administration, because there's never been an administration that has come in and said, we don't want government to work better. And it won't be the same thing 5 years from now, because the world will continue to change, technology will change, people's behavior will change, and the nature of work itself will continue to change.